America's in trouble. Marxist ideology has infiltrated our nation and is destroying it from the inside out. Marxism isn't coming to America, as many feared, with Kamala Harris being potential presidential electee. In the last election, she was the daughter of a trained Marxist. She herself was a trained Marxist. It was evident through her policies, her positions on things. And so people worried, oh, if she gets elected, Marxism will come into America. No, it's already here. I'm going to tell you a couple of the aims of Marxism, how it is eroding our country from within. We're going to see a video where I absolutely destroy a pro-abortionist simply by asking questions. I think you'll appreciate that, and you can use it whenever you're arguing with these people who love to murder babies. We're going to look at what Canada is doing to little children and see how that's not far off from what's happening in America. And finally, we'll say, what can I do about it? Hey, I'm Shane Winnings. I aim to give a biblical worldview of a world that's not so biblical. Let's get into it. All right, I want to open with a quote from a well-known Marxist. You may have heard of him, Joseph Stalin. Listen to what he said about America. He said, America is like a healthy body, and its resistance is threefold. It's patriotism, its morality, and its spiritual life. If we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. You see, the wise thing to do if you wanted to overrun a country is not simply come from the outside in, some sort of ground effort in a war, in a combative war. No, it would be to disrupt and to completely decay society from the inside out. And that is what we are seeing here. Cultural Marxism policies, I want to read this to you. They promote the lie that they are done in the name of freedom. They say you'll be more free if you just go this route. Liberalism, sexual perversion, which today's episode is going to focus on. Degenerate art, degenerate music. We already covered that with Taylor Swift's new album, where she's singing about dicks. And I'm just quoting her album. And that video went viral. Many people didn't know. How about mass immigration? Don't we see that? Trying to completely disrupt a nation. Promotion of people acting like animals and lawlessness. We see that. Look at the riots in the streets. No civilized activity whatsoever. Corrupted versions of feminism. We're going to talk about that in this episode as well. Multiculturalism and destroying nationalism. Now, we're going to do episodes on all of these, but today we're really going to focus on one of the elements, we could go deep in this, that has perverted feminism under the guise of liberation, under the guise of freedom. This is what Marxism wants to do, to disrupt a nation, to decay from the inside out. And what they have convinced women, and this is a long play, and I get into it on these college campuses that I'm touring, which, by the way, you got to see if we're coming to a school near you. We just did 3 campuses. It was absolutely incredible. We went to West Virginia University. We went to Miami of Ohio. We had about 140 students there. We went to University of North Carolina, Wilmington. We had about 160 students there. We had some protesters. It was a lot of fun. These are free events, so make sure you come out. Follow the Instagram pages there on the graphic. Take a screenshot so that you can check back in. But I'm on these tours, and I'm talking to students about how to save America, and I believe the solution is godly men. But let me zoom out a little bit when we talk about feminism and how it's been perverted. In a nutshell, it promoted the idea of like a woman doesn't need a man. You know, look at how happy women were in the 50s for the most part. They were being provided for. There was, chivalry. There were distinct gender roles, men being masculine, women being feminine. Men wanted to provide for a woman. Women wanted to be home with the children and be a homemaker. Like, that is many women's dreams. And I'm asking these young girls on campuses across the nation, and they're saying the same thing today. Why? That's because we were created by God. And it's just natural that men want to step up and lead, and that women, they want to be loved and nurtured and supported, and they want to live a life where they can love, nurture, and support. But culture said, no. You're a slave to your husband. You need to go be a slave to the business world. You need to go be a slave to the rat race of life. You need to go be a slave to the machine. And what happened? Women began pursuing career over family. Now, I'm not saying you can't work. I'm not saying you can't have a great career. Don't crucify me for what I'm not saying. I want you to hear me. This is the overall strategy to disrupt the nation, is to tear apart the family unit. That is one of the number one goals of Marxism, is to tear apart the family. And so they do it by sewing all these ideologies in, one of which is, let's get the mom out of the house so that we can get the child into the public school system where we can indoctrinate them, and this can become a generational cycle that will be hard for you to identify, let alone break. And so we have women now desiring the workplace and career first, believing that they're free, even though when you look at the statistics, the progressive ideology is not working. We're progressing in the wrong direction. We're the most anxious, depressed, suicidal, and drug-addicted generation in history. I think we need to go backwards, not forwards. And so as part of this, with women being liberated, is, hey, promiscuity, promiscuous sex. And don't worry about the consequence. That's what they call a child, a consequence. Don't worry about the consequence of a child, even though we believe that a child is a gift from God, never a consequence. Don't worry about that consequence of having a ton of sex. You can just get an abortion. And I want you to hear for yourself what some college women actually think about abortion and how easy it is to destroy them with common sense. I'm not a high-level thinker. I'm not like a brilliant guy. I use common sense, I use reason, and I ask questions. I want you to see how this young lady gets absolutely destroyed with a very basic argument. Really, she destroys herself. Let's watch and listen.
I'm gonna go back up front. Sorry.
Get out of here.
I just want to say that the rhetoric that you're spreading, especially in holding the patriarchal values, the values specifically for women, being in opposition to abortions being legalized kills women and kills people with uteruses. Pregnancy is extremely difficult on women's bodies. A lot of women die during their pregnancies and during labor. To put that pressure on women in restricting their access to abortions is irresponsible, and it is murderous. You don't want to be murderous, right? That's the whole point.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you that one question. Do you want to be murderous?
Of course not.
Of course
Can
not,
I ask
right?
you a question?
Sure.
What happens during an abortion?
The flesh, if it's a later term abortion, if it's not through the pill, right? The flesh does get sucked out with a vacuum.
What is the flesh? Whose flesh?
The flesh of the fetus.
What does fetus mean?
Fetus.
Does anybody know?
means-
Can you shout it out? Fetus means little human.
Okay.
So would you mind just repeating that sentence and say little human?
Okay. It doesn't really matter. It has a completely different functions.
It doesn't really. Let me just pause you, okay? It doesn't really matter.
You're arguing
because
about
you
semantics.
want to. No, hold on.
Give me the free.
Can we be genuine?
Yes, absolutely. That's
You
what I'm
asked
here
me
to do.
not to be murderous, okay? You refuse to say, suck out the little human because you know that it destroys your entire argument.
No,
I think
it does
that's
not.
disingenuous, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. Next question.
That was disgusting behavior and was not that of a political persona.
You don't debate
or
someone who's
anything.
not willing to change their position if corrected with facts. So we're done.
It wasn't a fact.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I mean, that's good stuff, isn't it? Like it's not even that smart. It's it's like listen to the rationale, listen to the reasoning. I don't actually believe that she's confused on what an abortion is. I think that she's been so brainwashed by society, as have probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women across the nation, to believe that it doesn't matter. And we see this all throughout history. When you begin to devalue something, dehumanize it, it's easier for you to be violent against it, even murderous, and exterminate it. And so the argument she was using against me got flipped back on her own head when I made her say, we're sucking out the flesh of a little human. She wouldn't do it. Why? Because she knows. She won't say that. Marxist ideology is responsible for this young lady, and I would probably venture to say millions of others around the nation, because they've been so liberated that the idea of just closing your legs, only having sex if you're married, or if you have a child, take responsibility for it and become a mother, that is slavery to them, because they've been so liberated by Marxist ideology that they have to do whatever they can, no matter the cost, to remain free, even though the things that they do, like get abortions, are traumatic and put them in more spiritual and emotional bondage. For some women, even physical, because many women die during the abortion process. A baby always dies. And by the way, to her statistic, I believe it's 2 out of every 10,000 or 2 out of every 100,000 women die during a pregnancy. Like, the statistic is incredibly low. It's like 0.2 or 0.2%. Incredibly low. Many women die during an abortion. They don't tell you that. They have to hush it. Why? It's all part of a propaganda. It's part of a narrative. And don't we see that in everything? Like, the media has a narrative for everything, and they want to spin it. Why? Because when we are divided, they can come in and be the savior. And that is why we have to recognize, they say those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. We have to recognize these ideologies coming in, and we have to reject them. And that's why I'm going to these college campuses saying, hey, men, be a respectable man, be a godly man, find a wife, have a family, and lead that family in the ways of God. When you lead a strong family is the number one resistance to the Marxist ideology. Marxism would fail if every man in a family said, not going to happen. If every woman in a family said, I'm not taking the bait, you're not going to convince me I'm a slave to my family or a slave to my husband, I'm happy here. But this pursuit of self has ruined us from the inside out. And we have to reject it, we have to recognize it, and we need to run away from it. I want to show you another video. Now, this was in Canada, but this happens in America as well. And they're saying the quiet part out loud. This is a 15-second video, but that's really all you need.
The sidewalk outside is filled with people waiting for the parade to start. Everyone is wearing whatever makes them feel most like themselves, even if that means wearing hardly anything at all.
Now, there were children at the end of that. I don't know if you saw. There were children. Looked like maybe some young teens, some pre-teens, even younger than that. I want to punch these people square in the face, because they are corrupting the minds of our children. But not only that, they are living out their perverse sexual fantasies out loud in the open, and it's accepted and it's endorsed by governments. And I got to blame the conservative party too. I'm not a conservative or a Republican. I vote wherever it makes sense. I will tell you, the last few elections, it did not make sense for me to vote on the Democratic ticket, because they made it clear that I should not vote for them based on their values. The conservative side's far from perfect. But the last ticket especially, the Democratic ticket, was demonic. Pro-abortion, open borders, that it is Marxism to a T. Got to reject that. So now we're working with what we've got here on the conservative side, and I completely disagree with the idea of LGBTQ. And I've talked about this. I've done other episodes. I did a 50-minute teaching called LGBTQ is Ruining America. You should check that out. I did a video talking about shame. We need shame culture back in America so that this stuff is few and far between. There should not be a pride parade. Like the idea of someone coming out and being openly sexual, that should be shameful. I would love to live in a nation where like someone tries to sell pornography and they get like ridiculed. Like there's so much shame in bringing this stuff out into the open that we don't need to enact, laws to, make it illegal to be gay or something like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if we were to uphold God's law, people would feel so ashamed to live outside of the traditional way, a man and a woman in covenant, that they would not openly do these things. People would feel so ashamed. And by the way, we do need laws regarding this stuff in the presence of minors. This is absolute perversion. When I was in school, if someone had came into the school and read us a book like that and said, oh, some kids don't wear any clothes at all, you would have been called a pedophile. Like, this needs to change instantly. We need it to change. I know that video was Canada, but this happens in America. There was just a Pride Festival not far from where I live, one of the biggest ones in this area. I think there were like 15 or 20,000 people who came through. Freaking disgusting, man. It should be illegal. It should not be allowed to happen in public. If you want to go do your thing in private, you have the right in this country to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. But when it comes to perverting the minds of our children, you don't have the right. You shouldn't have the right. It should be illegal. And it all stems from the idea of LGBTQ. And that's why I said we should outlaw gay marriage. We need to take steps to go backwards, not more progressive. We need to go back to like, don't ask, don't tell, right? I'm going to assume that everybody is, I'm not even going to worry about people's sexuality. But when I joined the military, it was like, I'm going to assume everybody is heterosexual. And if I have a feeling about somebody, hey, I ain't going to ask and you don't tell. You keep that crap to yourself. That is your own personal sexuality. I'm not interested in it. I don't care about it. You keep it secret. You keep it private. It's your private life. And what has happened to our country really since Obama took office in 2008? Look at what he did on the first day. Made us the gayest country in the world. And since then, 17 years ago, we've only gone downhill. We need to go backwards. We need to go backwards. And this is getting a spam call. I hate these. This is what the Marxists want. They want our country to be broken up. They want us to be divided. They want moral decay. They want to bring in perversion. They want to bring in pornography. They want to bring in sexuality, hypersexuality. They want to promote fringe, alternate lifestyles. And that is what we have seen over the years, and our country has suffered for it. When we move away from tradition, we get worse, not better. How do we save America? We recognize that there is an evil among us, these ways of thinking, and we say, no more. No more. Not going to happen. We begin to speak out against the horrors of abortion. We begin to speak out about the evil of grooming children. And it's going to take us men. Men, you got to recognize this, man. This stuff isn't going to go away on its own. Like, it's going to take some intentionality from us. It's going to take us being brave, because you'll say, well, what's it matter? Like, how does it affect you? It affects the nation. It is the moral decay of a nation. Does it affect me personally right now outside of, being upset when I see these clips? No, it doesn't. It's not in my home. But I care about the nation and what the nation permits. And I'm a Christian. I'm a preacher. I want to see this nation come to God. We were founded as a Christian nation. 8 of the 13 original colonies professed an oath to Jesus Christ. Like, guys, you got to look into history. We've drifted so far from where we begin, and I'm calling us back, and it's going to start with us as men. We got to put our foot down because we've given the enemy an inch at a time, and we look back 20 years later and we go, man, I don't even recognize this country anymore. And you can say, well, we shouldn't be involved in politics. Well, look how far that's gotten us. Christians staying out of the public square, Christians staying out of politics has got us in this very spot right now to where we're saying, man, it's pretty dark. Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's do it on purpose. Let's raise our voice. Let's stand up for the things of God. Let's contend for the Bible out in the open. In positions of power, those of you who serve on city councils and boards and in government positions, like, be bold. Take back our country from these wicked people bringing this destructive ideology. Let's make the family great again, and that starts by making dads and husbands great again. Men, time to step up. We need you. All right, guys, God bless. We'll see you next time.